Alright, so first and foremost, I'm gonna start off by saying Barakathon, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah Bahashem Kakadash. Double honors to the apostle of the great millstone. And shout out to the whole feed lifestyle with the 144,000 Shalom. Right? So the title of the lesson is you have to understand the whole truth. Right? And this comes from I woke up early this morning. I was watching that Apostle Gabar lesson. He was talking about reincarnation of Elijah, how he came back here and woke what's I'm saying, right, about Bivens, right, and he woke up the fathers and how the fathers brought nothing to the children and whatnot, right. But the point is in the spirit, I want to go in because he clarified a good bit. I doesn't want to go into it, through spirit and power, Bashin Shah, right? But understanding that, you have to understand reincarnation. That's why I titled this. You have to understand the whole truth, right? Because Yahushua even, taught reincarnation. Yahushua even told him reincarnation is real, And you have to understand it, right? Because, through the scriptures, right? And I had did a lesson on this a while back. I really got got a lesson on it in my notes. Let me see. Yes, I got precepts right here as well, going into it. I said, I'll read this, and Apostle Gabar, he mentioned how, Elijah had, Yahushua quoted, right? There's one greater Solomon that come, right? Because he was talking about himself, because he understood who spirit, this well, he know who all the spirits are, he knew who he was, right? So, quick notes real fast, says King Solomon went off, right, committing adultery, right, in 1 Kings, right? King Solomon went off committing adultery and many other things. Adultery is one of the main things the Lord Yahweh told him, he would be beaten with Christ. But he wasn't beaten with Christ as King Solomon. He died of old age, natural causes. So when did he pay for that, right? That's the question for, you Christians, others count. When did he pay for that, right? It says, so when did he pay for that? When he came back as Yahweh Shah, which was about 1,000 years in the future, from the time when King Solomon was on the earth. So 1,000 years in the future, he paid for what he did as King Solomon 1,000 years prior to that when Yahweh Shah came, right? Yahweh Shah was beaten with stripes of men, right? And when you understand it as reincarnation, because the spirits are reincarnated, right? Job said that when I die, I lie away from my chains, right? Here's Job 14:14 says, if a man die, shall he live again? And it ain't no such thing as death, right? This is Elder Apostle Bar speaking on this as well, right? Just doing a basic response lesson on going through the spirit of what Elder Apostle Kabar was going into, and bringing out a few precepts as well. But, it ain't no death. It's a sleep. It's sleep. They're asleep, right? They're asleep. They're in sleep right now, right? That's why in 1 Corinthians, chapter 15, what it says, we should not all sleep. We should not all die, right? But they sleep. They in the spiritual realm, right? It says, if a man die, shall he live again? All the days of my appointed time will I wait till my change comes. That change, he go to the spiritual realm. The spirit goes to the spiritual realm and be sent back on the earth to another fleshly body, right? When you understand it, that's how you have, that's how you have, it's judgment. That's how you have, kids who are blind. Let's think about the account of John, chapter 9. And when the baby was blind, right? Because the account, you understand, Ezekiel 18 tells you, right, that, Ezekiel 18, verse 1 through 3, right, that, and also you go down to Ezekiel 18 and 20 as well, but, every soul that sinneth, it perishes, right? So therefore, meaning, the parable you say, if a father eats sour grape, is the son going to be born with bad teeth? No, right? Because the father paid for his sin, the son paid for his sin. Because every soul that sinneth that perish, all the souls belong to, all the spirits, all the souls belong to Yahweh Shah, right? Every single spirit and soul belongs to Yahweh Shah. So when the soul spirit leaves the body, right? That's why in the account you will Acts chapter 5, I'm not mistaken, when the guy lied to Peter, I was thinking about how much money he sold what's the name for? It says he gave up the ghost, right? He gave up the spirit. Right, death ain't nothing but separation from the spirit in the flesh, right? The spirit go to the spiritual realm, and you sit and you wait for a change to be sent back to another flesh, right? Let me see. I'll go to Ezekiel real fast. Ezekiel 18, right? I'll read verse 4, right? It says, "Behold, all souls are mine. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die." Right? So meaning, right, all the souls we have by SIGH&CRY belong to him, right? They belong to him. So therefore, if you have a kid that, if you have a kid that's born with no disabilities, blind things, and such, it ain't because none of his father did, it ain't because his mother did. It's because in his past life, he went off. So when he was reincarnated into a different flesh, right? Judgment came upon him, right? That's why I knew the account with back at the beginning of this year, excuse me, there was a baby, a dad and his baby got killed at a car wash. She was around like 5 years old, and people looking around like, oh, y'all wrong. What should keep up? What that baby done at 5 years old? What the baby could have possibly did at 5 years old? Be real, right? Why? That's the count the scripture showing. If you in the spirit, how about SIGH&CRY, you understand it, right? That's why I titled this lesson, you have to understand the whole truth. So I can go back to that. You have to understand the whole truth, right? Because that's why it says fear is the beginning of knowledge and wisdom, right? That's why it says fear is the beginning of knowledge and wisdom. Because when you understand fear and you understand the wisdom, how about SIGH&CRY, you understand his judgment. You understand all things. You understand he control all things. It's a respectful fear, right? The lesson on that a while ago. Respectful fear, right? Let me show you the definition of respectful fear. Let me see. Respectful, /for notifications. Respectful fear meaning, right? I want you to see this, right? So respectful fear means having a feeling of deep admiration, honor, and awe for someone or something combined with the cautious awareness of their power, influence, and holiness. Because the Most High is separate. You can't go against him. He's very powerful. He's the Almighty, man. You can't go against him about SIGH&CRY. Everything that goes, everything that goes is what he said, right? So it's a respectful fear, man. Understanding that, his power, understand what he do, he control all things. That you can't play with how about SIGH&CRY. That's why the scriptures say, just because judgment is not executed speedily, right? It said the heart son man set to do evil, right? But not even understand, they don't understand the whole truth. They don't understand the whole thing. That's why these churches and these these false counsel, well, that's why all these, if you ain't teaching 100% truth, you destroying these people, right? Because most time might not get you in this life, but the next life, right? Matter of fact, do I want to read verse 20? Let me see. Yeah, I'll read this real fast. Ezekiel 18:20, right? It says, "The soul that sinneth, it shall die. The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, neither shall the father bear iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him," right? So basically what I was saying earlier, right? The father don't pay for the son's sin, the son don't pay for the father's sins, right? The account, when you go to John chapter 9, verse 1, right? It says, "Yahushua passed by, he saw a woman. He saw a man which was blind from his birth. And disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, the man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Right? Yahushua answered, "Neither hath this man sinned nor his parent, but the works of Yahushua be made manifest in him." Right? Because the reincarnation, right? He went off in his past life. He was he was born that way, because it's judgment from his past life, right? And that's how the Most High can get you. You can be born blind, right? But I wanted to go to Numbers 14 real fast, because you got to understand, nobody gets away from judgment. Nobody skips it, right? Just because, once again, the Most High don't get you in this life, once you reincarnated back to that's why Yahushua said it, man. All things, this generation has not passed. We all been reincarnated, right? That's why Yahushua said this generation shall not pass, right? Right here, Matthew 24:34. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all things be fulfilled. So what do you think going on? Right? Everything's being reincarnated. Everything was reincarnated. Right? This generation ain't passed yet. We're our fathers from back then who went off. Right? same spirits that reincarnated into, into different flesh. That's why this is a mercy period for us. This is a chance for us to correct ourselves. It's a chance for us to get right, right? But hey, Jake don't get it, right? It's number 14, verse 17. It says, now I beseech thee, let the power of my Lord be great, according as thou hast spoken, saying, the Lord Yahweh is long-suffering and of great mercy, right? That mercy is upon us now, right? Forgiving iniquity and transgression, sin on top of sin, and by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation. How you do that? Reincarnated, because every third and fourth generation, that spirit is reincarnated. That's why Esau even understands reincarnation. That's why in Psalms 17, we was talking about this a little bit that count. We ain't going to it deeply, but we spoke on it, right? How these elites, they understand reincarnation, right? That's why they pass they pass their substance, why they pass their generational wealth on down to the sons or whatnot, because they know eventually 3 or 4 generations they'll be reincarnated back into the earth, right? It just keep running through their people. Right? You have to understand it, right? You have to understand it. And I got a few accounts I want to bring in with just understanding a few examples. One of my favorites, because when I learned this, it hit me in the spirit deeply, because you can't get by the scriptures, man. Right? So and Elder Apostle Gabar is going into this, right? It's Malachi 4, right? And I just read just straight to the point. Verse 5 says, behold, I was seeing Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great day, behold, I was seeing Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord, right? So you understand it, it'll about Biblis, through the Spirit, not under Slakia, but I understand through the Spirit, and I haven't even met him, but I understand through the Spirit, what Elder Apostle Gabar means, Elder Apostle Gabar, the whole, Elders of GMS, when they break it down, right? This is the lesson right here.
All right.
He going into it, right? And I actually read this, this was inspired me to do the lesson. I actually put a precept up, but this inspired me to do the lesson. Slacky for notification. It says, Yahushua in his day taught his disciples who Elijah was in the regeneration. Matthew 17:11, which we're going to touch. He says, because he was asked directly by his disciples, why does the prophecy say Elijah must first come? So fast forward to the present day. Did Elijah come back according to the prophecy of Malachi 4 and 6 and Luke 1 and 15? What would these other Israelite groups outside of GMS and our true affiliates say of that prophecy? Right? And it shows you that they back in the day, right? And also not even that, that great dreadful day ain't came yet. So he's still here, because that curse upon the earth is what? The chariots come to destroy this place, the nuclear destruction, and that's to come. So we knowing that, just as well as John the Baptist, right? With Revelation 10, right? How that came to pass, how in his stomach, he ate the whole book, right? In his stomach sweet as honey, his mouth bitter. Right? We learn this knowledge, understanding. We understand it, that, that's how John's still here prophesying. He's still here prophesying, Habakkuk still here prophesying, right? Because these things are going to come to pass. These things are coming to pass, right? But understanding reincarnation, man. Daniel 7:13, the prophets never left their life. There ain't no records of the prophets being over here. How you think the word getting out with Ezekiel, right? How you think the word getting out with Ezekiel, with having the vision of him seeing the vision of the bones coming together. That's happening here today, right here, that valley, that lowland America, right? The prophets of prophesy these things, they're still here today, right? Well, here's Malachi 4 and verse 5 again. Behold, I will send Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord Yahweh. He shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I should come smite thee with the curse, right? So this is Matthew 11. Right, starting at verse 11, it says, verily I say unto you, among them that are born of woman, they have not risen a greater than John the Baptist. So Yahushua say, that's why John say, there's one who come after me, which is preferred before me, right? It says, notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. That's what he say. And if you will receive it, right? If you can receive it through the Spirit, right? This is Elias, which is Elijah, which was for to come, right? Because the account what Elder Apostle Gabar talking about, right? So it says, I start at verse I started at verse 10. It said, his disciples asked him, saying, why then say the scribes that Elias, which is Elijah, must first come? And Yahweh shall answer and say unto them, Elias truly shall first come and restore all things. But I say unto you, that Elias is come already, right? It says they knew him not, but have done unto him whatsoever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them, right? Then what he says, right? Then the disciples understood that he spake of them of John the Baptist, right? Because they understood reincarnation. They understood that, Elijah was reincarnate. John the Baptist was reincarnation of Elijah, the same spirit, right? They was counting on Elijah, right? Remember the account that Paul used, right? When Elijah was crying to the Most High, right? Just get straight to the point. Romans 11, it says, verse 2, it says, Yahweh hath not cast away his people, which he foreknew. What you not the scripture was said of Elias, how he maketh intercession to Yahweh against Israel, saying, Lord, they have killed thy prophets and dig down thy altars. I am left alone and seek my life. Right? Because Elijah teaches, but you see what Yahweh said, how they came against him, how they going against him, how they got to despise him, wanted to kill him. What he did to all the prophets. He was the last one left. He crying to him, but Yahweh was telling him, Paul used an example to show you, that it's the election. It's the elect, and that's what he's doing. The father got the fathers and the children. Right? It's the elect, that 144,000. Right? Those are the ones who are going to retain his knowledge, going to receive his knowledge. Right? And that's how you showed you today. That's another example, right? Just, kind of made me laugh a little, but that's another example to show you what? Reincarnation, that the prophet, they're still here today because why? The elect is being woken up. The elect is obtaining the election that was not going to bow down to the image. They're obtaining this truth. They're receiving this truth, right? The elect is getting the 144,000 receiving this truth right now, right? And the tribes are being brought back together, the whole nation, right? So, another account, I want to say that Matthew 16, where they asked Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai asked them, say, who then do they say I am? Right? Yeah, Matthew 16, right? At verse 13, it says, when Yahweh Shai came to the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? Right? And they said, some say that thou art John the Baptist, some say Elias, others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. Right? But understanding, right? What they do? They understand reincarnation. They thinking that Yahweh Shai is, one of the prophets reincarnated. Right? They understand reincarnation. So you have to get the whole truth. You can't skip around it. You can't go around that, man. It is one of the things that the Spirit brings upon you, the whole truth, man. Not half truth, not the whole truth. You had to get the whole roll. You had to tell Ezekiel eat the whole roll, right? But John the Baptist, he ate the book. He ate the whole book, meaning learned it. Food for thought. As the Apostle Hart say, man, food for thought. He ate the whole book. In his mouth it was sweet as honey, in his stomach it was bitter, right? Because there were things that you have to accept in this truth. You have to separate family. You have to get away from people because this is Elder Apostle Rumlod. And the other elder was going into this. That people gonna see, because this is a new thing. We're speaking a new song, so people gonna see you weird, out of the ordinary. This ain't nothing that everybody just gonna be able to receive and gonna get. That's why the truth's only for the elect. Only the elect gonna understand these deep things of like reincarnation and whatnot. People don't understand. People don't get that. People don't understand that. We were reincarnated back to earth, and ultimately this is our mercy period, man. Right? So Lord willing, I just want to touch on that. As I showed the lesson of the Elder Apostle Gabar, he's going to it as well. I just want to touch on that, Lord willing. Right, Lord willing, let's edifying and exalted. Right, and I want to give all in that glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the hopefully elect. Start with the 144,000 Shalom. And SIGH&CRY, I'm going to actually go see if there's any other precepts, because I got a lesson, right? If there's any more precepts, then you want to hit Matthew 10:28, that's why we don't fear him, only him who, matter of fact, SIGH&CRY, I do got one more, right? And I get straight to the point. It's talking about John the Baptist, right? Verse 13 say, you have Zacharias lived to have a son named John. Well, I'll get straight to the point, right? In verse 16 it says, and many of the children of Israel shall turn. Verse 15 actually said, for he shall be great in the sight of the Lord. What Yahweh shall say, right? He shall drink neither wine nor strong drink. He shall be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb. That's that Rakakodas, that spirit that brings you knowledge and understanding, right? He said, and many of the children of Israel shall he turn to the Lord their power. He shall go before him in the spirit and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of just, to make ready people prepare for the Lord, right? So we not just read that in Malachi 4, right? It shows you a fit example of reincarnation. The Most High telling he shall go forth in the spirit of Elijah, just as well as Yahweh was what? King Solomon. He was Adam. What is that? What is 1 Corinthians 15, right? The first Adam, right? The first Adam was the flesh, the earthly Adam, and the heavenly Adam, which is what Yahweh, right? Gotta think, man, right? Romans 5, right? What it say, the same man who brought sin, was to figure him to come, the one who's going to bring righteousness, which is Yahweh, right? Yahweh, Isaac, the same spirit. Isaac gave Esau the sword. Yahweh come and take that sword back, man. You got to understand reincarnation is playing to the holy, stone block to the wicked, but you got to understand the whole truth, man. You can't take shortcuts around. You can't find what fits unto you and fits your lifestyle, fits your description, how you want to go about some things and try to come worship Yahweh. You got to be able to eat the whole roll, man. You got to eat the whole roll, right? So, Lord willing, right? Once again, hope the lesson edifying this altar. And shalom, back with another lesson soon.